Every warp lane, patrol route, and gravity well in Sector Harkon 7 had been surveyed, militarized, and locked down for centuries. The Imperial flagship Syndrel's Wrath, a dreadnought stretching 2 kilometers in length and bristling with quantum lance turrets, drifted calmly above the atmosphere of the mining world Virex 9. Its presence a reminder that rebellion was not tolerated in the Empire's core territories. So when the anomaly first registered, just a flicker on the peripheral sensors, it was dismissed. An ion hiccup, a sensor ghost. It was dismissed until it wasn't, because 10 seconds later it was in orbit, and it wasn't just any ship. It was human, and it shouldn't exist. The command bridge of Syndrel's Wrath descended into stunned silence as the outline solidified on the main view screen. The vessel was black, matte black, eating light like a collapsed star. No transponder, no Empire registration, no recognizable warp signature. It had not arrived through any known gate. It had not crossed the border. It had not been detected, approaching at all. It had simply appeared. Admiral Vorak Venzali, Supreme Lord of the 7th Imperial Fleet, stood slowly, his 4 ceremonial epaulets swaying with calculated dignity. "Pause the feed," he ordered. The screen froze, capturing the alien ship in high definition. Sleek, monolithic, predatory. Venzali stared at it. "Bring me everything we know about Terrans." The junior officer at the intelligence station blinked. "Sir, humanity is extinct." "Then that," the Admiral said coldly, "is a ghost." On the Terran ship there was no fanfare, no flashing lights, no war drums, no declaration of war. There was only silence, broken only by the soft, deliberate hum of a command chair rotating toward the viewports. The man seated in it was not wearing medals, no decorative armor, no cape. Just a black uniform, worn like a shadow. "Status report," he said calmly. His second-in-command replied with equal poise. "Empire fleet above Virex 9. 4 destroyers, 1 flagship, weapons hot, shields active. They're already scanning us." "Of course they are," the commander said. He tapped a single command into the armrest. Outside, along the edges of the Terran warship's hull, panels began to slide open. The ship began to transform. No one on the Empire's side knew what they were looking at, until they did. Too late. The Emperor's military had grown fat on peace. For 400 years, the Galactic Empire faced no real opposition. The Sorn Confederacy was crushed. The Rathari uprising bled out. The last real war was against the Silnar Collective, and even that had ended with planets reduced to glass. Humanity had vanished a century ago, presumed dead or scattered to the edges of uninhabitable systems. But now, hovering above their core sector, was a warship built for one purpose only: to fight giants. Back on Syndrel's Wrath, Venzali snapped his fingers. "Open channel." A blue glow pulsed on the central deck as the comlink connected. An unfamiliar human symbol glowed on the screen. A stylized fractured Earth, then the face appeared. It was human. Calm. Unimpressed. "This is Commander Reese Calder of the Terran vessel Gorgon's Will," he said. "You are orbiting a sovereign Terran territory. Leave." The bridge crew of Syndrel's Wrath burst into scoffs and low chuckles. Even the Admiral's mouth curled slightly. "Sovereign what?" Reese didn't blink. "Virex 9 was seeded by human expedition teams 300 years ago. We left something buried beneath its crust. We've come to retrieve it." "You make demands from one ship?" "No," Reese said. "This is just the first." The Empire misunderstood something that day. They had always calculated war in terms of numbers, fleets, tons, troop counts. Their enemy had been gone for 100 years. They believed humanity had died out. But humans didn't vanish. They went quiet. They watched. And they learned. "Sir," a panicked officer called out aboard Syndrel's Wrath. "They've activated something. Our sensors are blind. Entire grids just went dark." "What are they doing?" Venzali demanded. "No idea, sir, but..." The view screen flashed. The Terran warship moved. Except, it didn't move like a ship. It jumped. A full kilometer. Instantaneously. A teleportation blink. Every ship in the Empire's fleet scrambled. Too late. The Terran warship reappeared beneath the closest destroyer, fired once, a single beam of white light, and the Empire ship ceased to exist. No explosion. No fire, just disintegration. Now the Admiral wasn't smiling. Contact High Command. I want reinforcements from the Harkin Ridge, the Silver Belt, anywhere. But communications were already jammed. And then a voice echoed again. This time, directly inside their bridge. No reinforcements are coming. It was Rhys Calder. You're inside an echo field. Your signals can't escape. Your fleet's already being mapped. Each of your ships has a unique exhaust signature. You trained us too well. That was when Venzali realized the true horror. This wasn't just a stray Terran warship. This was a strike, a lesson, a warning, and a beginning. Admiral Vorak Venzali stood frozen at the command pulpit of Sindral's Wrath, his lips parted as if to speak, but no orders came out. He had watched a destroyer vanish. Not explode, not drift. Vanish. The crew around him stared at their consoles. But none of them were reading properly. HUD scrambled, shield signatures disappeared. The Terran ship moved like a phantom, appearing, striking, vanishing again. Is this a simulation? Someone whispered. No, Venzali muttered. It's worse. In the outer corridor, Commander Aelin Vrax of Empire Signal Corps slammed her hand against the terminal. No response from Orbital Command. Virex 9 base is cut off, all wavebands corrupted. She turned to the ship's AI liaison. Are they using dampeners? The AI paused, which it never did. Not dampeners. Something more advanced. Possibly synthetic consciousness feedback loops. We are detecting echo chambers. Human in origin. Humans? Aelin said sharply. That's not possible. It is now. Across the bridge, the holographic display reassembled the enemy warship. Dozens of tiny scans formed a growing 3D model in the center of the command deck. No ship of that size should move like that, a tactical officer said aloud, eyes wide. It doesn't turn, another officer said. It repositions, like, it's not bound by inertia. Venzali felt it then, not fear, not yet, but the first taste of something deadlier, doubt, and that was how empires began to fall. 3 sectors, away outpost E947, decommissioned terraforming zone, a quiet cave carved into black stone. Wind howled across the ridgeline outside, but inside it was deathly still. Inside sat an old man in a simple coat. Bald, scarred, eyes like mercury. He was watching the same footage, streamed illegally from a scavenger drone near Virex 9, the Terran. Warship Gorgon's will had just erased another Empire ship. Confirmation? A voice asked behind him. Confirmed, the old man whispered. It's begun. Behind him stood 2 others, one female, one synthetic, both Terran, both armed. Calder broke protocol, the woman said quietly. No, the old man said, standing slowly. He executed the plan. As the Terran ship repositioned again, this time above the mining world, the Empire fleet finally fired. Not warnings, not scans. Lethal intent. All 4 remaining Empire ships launched salvos of plasma torpedoes, antimatter shells, and shredders. Dozens. Then hundreds. They converged on the Terran ship. They hit. The space lit up like 1,000 suns, and when it cleared, the Terran ship was still there. Not a scratch. The humans had returned with something the Empire did not possess. Not just stealth, not just weapons, but understanding. Empire ships were built to dominate. But human ships? Human ships were built to survive extinction. Rhys Calder leaned forward in his command chair, the glow of the weapons panel lighting his face. They've begun, his lieutenant said. Rhys smiled faintly. Let them. He tapped a sequence on his armrest. Around the Terran ship, 6 auxiliary modules detached, spreading like petals from a mechanical flower. They drifted in absolute silence. And then, they sang. Not audible music, but resonance. Vibrations tuned to imperial frequencies. On Syndrel's wrath, every screen flickered. Weapon systems faltered, engines slowed. "They're hacking us." "Through space?" Venzali barked. "No," Ellen Vrax whispered. "They're turning our own systems against us." Two researchers burst into the Forbidden Wing, ancient scrolls and data slates scattered around them. "Look," the younger one cried, throwing a cracked slate onto the table. It displayed a human crest. Old marked EXILE Initiative, Contingency, Air 1. If contact is hostile. The older scholar stared, hand trembling. "They didn't die," she whispered. "They left. And they came back with contingency protocols we never knew existed." Empire's Elite Response Center. 3 hours later, the message from Virex 9 was received, fragmented, distorted, but real. A warship, designation Gorgon's Will, had appeared. 4 Empire vessels destroyed, 1 dreadnought compromised, no casualty, count confirmed. Senator Galen Corr stood before the Galactic Council, eyes wide with disbelief. "This is a hoax," someone scoffed. "It's impossible." "Then why are our fleets not responding?" Galen barked. "Why can't we reach Virex Navi?" A silence. Then a message pinged on the central hub. It contained no visuals, just a single sentence. "Do not chase ghosts. The living ones have teeth." Admiral Venzali stood amid chaos. His command bridge was in disarray. Lights failed. Power stuttered. The Terran ship didn't fire again. It didn't have to. It just hovered, watching. Venzali turned slowly, addressing his bridge crew. "We underestimated them." He looked up at the view screen where Reese Calder's face had once appeared. "We always thought of them as desperate, wild." He paused. "But we forgot the most dangerous kind of predator," he whispered, "the one that learns." The Terran ship powered down its weapons, and then it sent one final message. "We didn't come to conquer. We came to reclaim." And just like that, it vanished. Again, humanity doesn't conquer, they dismantle. And the Empire is about to learn that a war of pride cannot match a war of precision. Seamless continuation, 2,000 plus words minimum. Cinematic HFY tone maintained. The Imperial capital, High Spire Citadel, was not accustomed to silence. Its skylanes were usually choked with diplomatic barges, trade haulers, and security convoys. But tonight, only the wind howled between its silver towers. Inside the Senate chamber, the ruling quorum of the Galactic Empire stood still, frozen mid-session, their faces reflecting the pale blue light from a central display. 1 Terran vessel. 4 confirmed kills. 0 losses. No trace. The Speaker of the Chamber, Lord Minister Saildron, finally broke the silence. "I will not sit here while ghosts tear through our dominions." He slammed his fist against the table. "Mobilize the Crimson Armada, activate Helion protocols. If they're human, they bleed like the rest." But someone else stood up slowly. It was High Scholar Ven Ixan, head of the Empire's Historical Division. "You don't understand," he said. "This isn't a rebellion, it's a test. And we're failing." Meanwhile, Sector Kethros 11A, routine patrol fleet of 3 Empire frigates dropped out of warp near the icy moon of Haros. Within minutes, their sensors pinged a contact. 1 ship. Again, same hull signature. Same silence. The commander aboard Iraq's Vale, the lead Empire frigate, didn't wait. All ships fire at will. No hails. No warnings. Dozens of missiles arced toward the Terran vessel. And just like before, they vanished mid-flight. Not exploded. Not jammed. Just ceased. The next thing the Empire ship saw was their own torpedo signatures, mirrored back at them, as if time itself had stuttered. 2 ships vaporized. The third limped away, its final broadcast simply repeating one phrase. "They're not just advanced, they're predicting us." Back in Terran Command deep within an asteroid cluster marked uninhabitable by old Empire records, Reese Calder stood inside a blackened command dome surrounded by holograms of Empire sectors, fleets, and economic weak points. Each pulse marked a new psychological breach. 1 here, Planetary Council resigns in panic after a single Terran vessel parks in low orbit. Another there. A colony begins evacuating itself before a shot is even fired. Humanity had no need for full invasion. They had learned from history. Shock collapses systems faster than brute force. Targets pre-selected? Reese asked quietly. His second-in-command, Cora Vale, nodded. Each strike is a statement, not war. Reminder. Good, he said. Let the galaxy remember who taught it war. Empire Military Council. Emergency meeting. Admiral Venzali stood before a room of hollow-eyed generals and planetary leaders. I faced them. They're not bluffing. One general scoffed. We outnumber them 1,000 to 1. They don't care, Venzali replied. They're not attacking our fleets, they're erasing our certainty. The room grew quiet again. Venzali activated a recording, audio only, a transmission pulled from deep space near the rim. A voice. Reese Calder's voice. This is not retribution. This is audit. For every world taken in greed. For every language silenced. For every child sent to dig minerals under your banner. You will now remember their names, because we never forgot them. Empire Outpost. Zeta Prime, gas mining station. A Terran warship didn't attack. It simply broadcast a frequency, an ancient human protest song, on loop for 16 hours. The station's crew eventually powered down voluntarily. Why? Because they started singing along. Half of them were not Empire-born. They were colonial citizens, half-bloods, workers, second class. And the Terran frequency spoke to something that ran deeper than patriotism. It spoke to memory. On the outer fringes, a Terran AI, callsign Meridian, infiltrated the Empire's central trade algorithm without launching a single weapon. In under 4 hours, trade across 6 sectors halted. Prices for rare minerals reversed polarity. Entire banking clusters saw data corruption so precise, it only destroyed interest. Humanity wasn't just targeting ships, they were targeting the illusion of control. By the 6th day of incursions, 23 Terran vessels had appeared across 9 sectors. Not one was caught. Not one was destroyed. Each left behind a single symbol, burned into satellites, carved into moons, embedded in signals. The fractured Earth, but it wasn't a call for war. It was a signature that meant, we were here, we remember. And now, you will too. Senator Galen Corr's private bunker, nightfall. The senator stood by the glass watching the artificial sky flicker. Why don't they finish us, he muttered. His aide, trembling, said, maybe. That's not the point. Corr turned. What do you mean? I mean, sir. The aide swallowed. Maybe. This is the finishing. Reese Calder watched as another Empire fleet withdrew before a single Terran weapon had to fire. A list hovered in front of him, not of targets, but of names. Colonies burned, families erased, human explorers who never returned, ambassadors betrayed, children who died building the Empire's roads. Beside each name, one word, accounted. Planet Ralos Tier, Imperial Midcore Sector. Ruins of the high Imperial Archive ash drifted through the once sacred halls like falling snow. Not from fire, but from data. Millions of digital records had been wiped, not by hacking, but by an impossible signal that reversed the electrons in storage arrays. Scholars and technicians stood helpless as centuries of Imperial propaganda, war declarations, and rewritten history dissolved into static. On the central wall, a single sentence now blinked. History is not yours to write alone. Signed, Terran Coalition. The mining world had changed. No longer a resource colony, no longer a strategic outpost. Instead, something ancient and newly unearthed now glowed beneath its crust. A Terran vault. Thousands of Empire scientists, diplomats, and spies tried to understand it, but no one could crack the code except one woman, half-human, Empire-trained. She touched the glowing ring at its entrance, and the system spoke a single word. Welcome home. Within weeks, rebel governors, silent scholars, and disillusioned officers began calling Virex-9 by a different name. The place where lies ended. The Empire didn't fall in fire. It fell in something colder. Doubt and doubt, once seeded, spreads like frostbite across the limbs of giants. Trade collapsed. Colonies seceded. Outer governors resigned overnight. By the end of the month, 1/3 of the Empire's regional command stations had gone dark, not destroyed, abandoned. No orders, no troops, no reason. The systems had been hollow all along. The Terrans had simply shown the cracks. High Spire Citadel. Final emergency broadcast. For the first time in galactic history, the Empire declared a formal containment breach not caused by biological but ideological infection. And then it did something unthinkable. It sued for conversation. Not surrender. Not truce. Dialogue. They broadcast one question to the Terrans. What do you want? The answer came 7 seconds later. Reese Calder's voice, crisp and clear, on every channel in every sector. For you to remember, and for you to never forget. Again. The human homeworld. Coordinates redacted. No Empire ship ever reached it. Not because it was hidden, but because it was protected by the warships no one ever counted. Not the dreadnoughts, but the storytellers. Every child born on that world knew the songs of Virex, knew the names etched into the hulls of warships, knew that silence was not weakness, silence was patience, and patience had teeth. The legacy of Commander Reese Calder. No grave, no parade, no image. Only one final transmission left in the Terran archives, dated the day the Empire dissolved its outer fleets. We didn't return to conquer, we returned to correct, and now, we leave you not in chains but with mirrors. A new map begins to form. Old borders fade, trade reopens, but no one calls it an empire anymore. Instead, they call it the Constellate, a shared zone of species equal in council, uneven in past but aligned in purpose. At its center, by universal agreement, is a protected neutral world. Virex-9, once burned, once exploited, now a memorial. Its orbit is guarded not by weapons, but by memory, and memory, they've all learned, is the most dangerous weapon of all. A classroom on a distant moon. A child raises her hand. Teacher. Is it true the Terrans disappeared again? The teacher smiles gently. No, child. They simply watched. Another child asks, will they ever come back? The teacher walks to the center of the room, activates a small globe and shows them the fractured Earth symbol. They never left. The galaxy once feared the Terrans would return in rage. But instead, they returned in clarity. And clarity is something no Empire survives unscathed.